Hi there, it's Marin Base. Very excited, as always, to welcome you to our next session of the Ultimate Grant Proposal Blueprint. Today we're taking a look at Chapter 7. What's this all about? Quickly, and who are you anyway? Now, I think about this session as our wrap-up session, not because it's the final session in the course. We have one more get together, and that's when we're really going to take a look at how we pull it all together in specific proposals for Funder A, Funder B, Funder X, Y, Z. So lots of fun ahead there. This session is where we come to an end in terms of our journey through the key planning questions for building the Ultimate Grant Proposal Blueprint. We actually have 3 more sections, 3 more planning questions to cover, and we're going to be doing that right here, right now. So here's what's ahead in this chapter. We actually have 4 lessons this time. Lesson A is all about the hard-working proposal summary and how to muscle it up. In Lesson B, we're going to be taking a look at the credibility statement, answering the questions, who are you, what are you all about, and how do we know we can trust you? In Lesson C, we're going to be looking at that sustainability question that can really trip us up if we don't understand what the funders are looking for. What about sustainability? Answering the tricky question about future funding. And finally, in Lesson D, frameworks. We're going to be going back and doing a review of all the different ways that I have shared with you for looking at the process of building an A+ grant proposal. And then I'm going to share one more with you. Very powerful, a huge power tool for you to be working with in your work in your organization called the Proposal Checklist and Review Worksheet. All right. So when you're finished with this session, what I want for you is for you to understand why the proposal summary is considered one of the 3 powerhouse proposal sections, powerhouse, and the essential but often undervalued role that the summary plays in the success of your proposal. You will have a simple, powerful framework for crafting a proposal summary that pulls its weight and does the hard work it's meant to do. You'll know the real question that your credibility statement needs to answer for all grant makers, even if they never, ever ask it out loud. You'll be able to craft a mission-centered credibility statement that tells your organization's story authentically and compellingly and inspires the grant maker's confidence. You'll understand what grant makers really need to know when they ask the dreaded sustainability question and how to answer authentically and with confidence. All right, so lots to cover here. As always, let's start by paying a visit to Al Einstein. How would you answer these questions now at the beginning of your journey? All right. If an organization is struggling in its grant seeking, it's almost always the fault of the grant writer. True or false? Because the summary comes at the beginning of your proposal and is the first thing your reviewer will read, it should also be the first section that you write. True or false? The summary serves as the introduction to your proposal, meaning its purpose is to introduce your organization to the reader. True or false? From the grant maker's standpoint, a nonprofit's credibility comes primarily from how clearly the nonprofit can articulate its mission, vision, and values. True or false? And finally, the reason the Ultimate Grant Proposal Blueprint presents so many frameworks for thinking about proposal building is to overwhelm and confuse you. True or false? And boy, we've had a lot, haven't we? We're not done yet. All right, so let's dive into Lesson 7A, the hardworking proposal summary and how to muscle it up. The Secret Codebreaker worksheet, here we are again, and the proposal summary is at the very top of our list of key planning questions, all right? But it is the last thing that we're coming to, or almost the last thing that we're coming to, as we're working our way through those key planning questions to build up our ultimate grant proposal blueprint. Why is that? Well, let's take a look at the key planning question itself. And that underlying question that we want to be answering in this section is simply, what's this all about? Quickly. What's this all about? Quickly. All right. This is what I call the proposal summary. And you may hear funders refer to it as the proposal summary as well. You can also use this language, overview, abstract. Some funders will ask for an executive summary, maybe proposal highlights. What I want you to do is think about this section, the first section in the finished proposal, as a thumbnail. And you know what thumbnail means. A decade or two ago, we might not have been so familiar with the idea of a thumbnail. That's that miniaturized version of the whole document or the whole image shrunk down to teeny tiny size. But if you look closely, it still contains all the detail that the big original contains as well. So let's talk a little bit about what I mean with proposal powerhouses, and then we'll go more into the summary itself. Proposal powerhouses are the three sections of the proposal that have to carry the weight for the entire piece of work. They are the foundational elements that do the hard lifting for every other section of the proposal. In my experience, as both a proposal writer, a program designer, and certainly as a grant maker who spends a lot of time reviewing proposals and working with my advisory committee as they struggle through the proposal review process itself. These are the three sections that, if they are done well, will hold up the whole proposal. And if they are done poorly or weakly or sloppily or carelessly or just simply without attention to the hard work that is theirs to do, the whole proposal is probably going to fall flat. And these are the issue or need statement, which I've called the engine of the whole proposal. It's what moves everything forward. And the outcomes statements, which is what anchors us in that positive future in terms of where we want to be when we've been successful with our work. And you'll guess what the third one is. It's the summary. Now, that might be a surprise to you. You might have thought that the work plan would be one of the proposal powerhouses, or maybe the evaluation, or maybe the budget. Each and every section of our proposal is critically important, has to carry its own weight. But these are the three sections that, if we short shrift them, nothing else is going to work the way it should. So let's take a look at the whole process that we've been talking about all along. And that analogy that I've been referring back to again and again and again is how to construct a bridge. So here's our more elaborate bridge constructing scenario. You've seen it before. You can repeat along with me. We start with question number 3 on our planning worksheet, where we are. That's our issue statement. That's the situation as it currently exists. We also create the strong foundation over there, question number 4, where we want to be. And then all the work of every other section of the proposal, except for the summary, is all about laying out how we're going to get from where we are to where we say we want to be. Just that simple. So let's build a slightly more simplified version of our bridge building schematic. All right, so let's just sort of graphically represent this. Here's our issue statement, what's going on right now that we want to change, where we are right now. And over here is our outcomes. What will things look like when we've been successful with our work, where we want to be. All right. In between, connecting the two, is what I've been calling the vision bridge, how we're going to get from where we are now to where we want to be. That's the work plan, that's the partnerships, that's the evaluation, that's the budget. But where does the summary or overview fit in? Where does the summary or overview fit in? Well, here it is. It sits at the very top. And you see that dotty line that goes all the way around the sides and down to the bottom? That's the summary or overview, creating an upfront mental container into which all of the details of the proposal, the issue statement, the outcomes, the vision bridge, everything has a place to fit. You think of it as the thumbnail, not as an introduction. Think of it as the miniaturized version of the whole proposal, not the introduction. Let's not use the word introduction here anywhere, and let me show you why. Why the summary is a proposal powerhouse and why we don't want to think of it as the introduction. Okay. The proposal summary creates, as I said, the upfront, first thing somebody reads, mental container into which all the details have a place to fit. Now, somebody diving into a proposal without a good summary up front doesn't have a clue what to expect. And there's a lot of detail that we're going to be moving through in the proposal. It's a very powerful truth of how we read that if we want to retain detail, we have to have a mental container already prepared into which that detail can fit. Kind of like our sorting buckets that we looked at a few sessions ago. There's a lot of detail out there. How do we organize it? Well, we organize it by setting up sorting buckets. The proposal summary serves a similar purpose. It gives a place where the reader can put the details and organize the details in order to manage all the details as he or she moves through the proposal. So that's why I want to think of it as a thumbnail or a bucket, not as an introduction. And here's the difference. An introduction is something that comes before. It's something that leads into something else. That's the literal meaning of the word introduction. Duct means lead and intro means into. So the actual root of the word, the Latin root, says lead into something else. It's like saying, here it comes. Here's a taste of what you can expect. Here's what I want you to know about it, what it is, where it came from, and why, before you dive in. And now, ta-da, here it is, right? It's a preamble, all right? That's why I use the image that you see here, we the people. That's the preamble to the Constitution of the United States. It's a preface, another way to think about it. It's the lead in. It was what leads people in, but it is not a representation of the document as a whole. All right. Another way we think about the word introduction is, let me introduce ourselves to you. Let me tell you all about our organization. Here's who we are. Here's what we all about. Hi, my name is... Well, guess what, guys? That's a different section of the proposal. That's what we call the credibility statement, and we'll be coming to that next. We are not talking about that kind of introduction here. We're talking about a summary. The powerful summary will stand on its own as a tight, coherent, miniaturized version of the entire proposal. And what I want you to be thinking literally is that somebody could read the summary alone and have enough information to understand what the whole project is about, to understand where it's going, to be able to say, this is what we want to support. This is in line with what we want to do. It can stand on its own. By definition, an introduction always leads into something else. The summary is self-contained. It can stand on its own as a tight, coherent, miniaturized version of the whole proposal. It's the first thing somebody reads when they're coming to your proposal. That means it's going to, first of all, make the first impression in terms of clarity, in terms of conciseness, in terms of comprehensibility. So it's the doorway into your proposal that creates the first impression. And it is, again, the context for all the detail, that mental sorting container. Now, it's not only the first thing that somebody reads, it could also be the only thing that someone reads from your proposal. It could be the only thing someone reads. Now, why would a grant maker ask for a summary if the summary didn't serve a specific decision-making purpose? Sometimes, more often than you think, the final decision maker or decision makers will only see the proposal summary. They don't want to have all that detail. Maybe the program officer, the gatekeeper person, like my role in the organization where I manage the grant funds, I'm the gatekeeper. I read the whole proposal. And in my particular circumstance, my advisory committee members do as well. But in other organizations, the board of trustees may only want to see the summary. And I, as the program officer, would have all the backup detail in case they have a question. But everything they need to know about the proposal needs to be in the summary. Okay? That's a critical point. If that's all they read, would they know what they need to know in order to make an informed, intelligent, and confident decision about your proposal? It also serves as a summary of all the proposed projects. All right, so maybe your funder is putting something up online, for instance, about all the projects that have come in for review. So it's a thumbnail for anybody who might need to get a sense of what other proposals are in the mix in any given funding round. Lots of different ways that the summary can be used in terms of proposed projects. And the summary can be part of what goes into the media releases when awards are made. It goes up on the website, the list of awarded projects, lots of different ways that this language, this miniaturized, tight, coherent version of the whole proposal, also sometimes called an abstract, I'm not sure if I use that language up front or not, okay, will stand on its own as a representation of the entire proposal. So this is no flabby little thing that's just sort of a quick little hi, howdy, and a handoff. This is a powerhouse section of the proposal. There is hard work that it needs to do, and it has to do that work right up front, right the very first thing, sometimes the only thing that the decision makers will see. I actually It's so tricky when you don't understand this that I find I spend a lot of my time when I'm in a proposal review process. The proposals all come in, say we had 15 in the last funding round, and I give specific guidance in my RFP about how to construct the summary, the same guidance you're going to be getting here in just a few minutes. But people don't always take that guidance to heart for whatever reason, and I spend a lot of my time rewriting, or in many times writing, from scratch, the summary that I want to be posting at the review website and that I want to be sharing with my review team so they have the opportunity to get that clear mental container that did not come in the proposal. So I am actually crafting the summary of the proposal for the people who put the proposal together. I don't want somebody else doing that for me. When it's my proposal, I want to craft that summary myself. I want to be in complete charge of the first thing that somebody sees about my proposal and the only thing that a decision maker might see about my proposal. All right, so I hope you really feel that this is not an afterthought. Just because I'm saying write it last, it's not because it's an afterthought, by no means. So here's a picture of somebody that you might recognize, or maybe not. Who do you think this is? You might know her husband a little bit better by sight. This is Melinda Gates. She happens to be married to Bill Gates, and you will recognize her name as being part of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So she actually takes a much more active role in running the foundation than her husband does. So I want you to imagine that you have Melinda Gates's undivided attention for 30 seconds, and she has just asked you, so we have a little bit of extra money that we want to be awarding these days. Kind of curious about your organization. You've come to our attention. In 30 seconds, give me a summary of a project that you would love us to consider for funding. And if I like what I hear, I'll be able to say yes right on the spot. What do you think about that? You've got 30 seconds. Well, what do you want to share with Melinda Gates? What will she need to know about your project in order to what? Make an informed, intelligent, and confident decision. It's what we call the 30-second elevator test. The common scenario is that you're a screenwriter, you've got a screenplay, and you get 30 seconds in an elevator with Steven Spielberg from the lower floor all the way to the top of the building. I'm sharing out Melinda Gates because she's the one that you want to be able to pass this 30-second test with. What do I need to put into the summary that will give her all the information she needs to know whether this proposal is a good fit for her organization moving forward? That's how powerful the summary has to be. So I want to take you into the opportunity to you be Ms. or Mr. Gates. You get to be the grant maker again. Remember this? We get to go back to Proposal A and Proposal B. Do you remember those? That's what we looked back in our issue statement section. And I asked you to read Proposal A, 2 minutes, and then 2 minutes with Proposal B in terms of the issue statement, and then decide which of the two you would fund. That was as a member of a review team. This time, you are a member of the Board of Trustees, very busy people with lots of commitments in the community, and you trust the foundation program officer to vet the proposals and bring you the two that they would recommend you consider for final funding, and you only want to see the summary. That's it. The summary is limited to 200 words, and both of these proposals fit within that limit. This will be the first thing that some reviewers see, and it will be the only thing that you see as the final decision makers. So I want you to go to the summaries. Proposal A is on page 145. Proposal B is on page 146. Read them through, and now you kind of have a sense of each of the proposals already from your experience back in our issue statement section. Read each of them through on your own time without a time limit. And for yourself, answer these questions at the bottom of the screen. If this is the only thing you have on which to base your decision, should we fund this one or should we fund this one? How well does each example perform? As a thumbnail of what you assume is the whole proposal, what works? What doesn't work? And what can you see that makes the difference? Okay? How well does each example serve that function of being the muscle that creates a clear mental container for all the detail to come to fall into, or in this case, gives me enough information about the program, the project, how it's going to work, why it's important for me to make an informed and confident decision? All right. Go ahead and push pause and take whatever time you need to read, review, think about it, and come on back. We're not actually going to be discussing it together. I'm going to leave it to you to reach your own conclusions. Well, let's talk a little bit about how you can craft a summary that works and passes the 30-second elevator test. And I have great news for you, because we've been doing our work all along for you. The hard work of crafting that muscular, powerful summary statement is already done. You've already done all the project planning. You've already done all the organizing of the detailed information. You've already found just the right language to express what you want to express, to create the theater of the mind, to bring people front and center, to be concise and clear and compelling. And we are, by the way, going to talk more about writing in our final session next time around. Now all you have to do, and I mean this, is just go into what you've already done and pull out what you need for the summary. You do not need to create anything new because you've already done the hard work. All right, so let's take a look at our working example. Back to Literacy Volunteers Tutor Training Program. And what I'm going to do is share with you, or you can see on page 147 in your workbook, I've taken the summary straight out of the sample master proposal blueprint that we've been working with all along. And I've broken it down sentence by sentence or paragraph by paragraph, A, B, C, D, etc. And that's on the left-hand side. And on the right-hand side, you'll see all of the major sections that we've been exploring as we build up our master proposal blueprint. All right. What I want you to do is match each section with the corresponding proposal section. Let me rewind. Match each sentence on the left-hand side with the proposal section on the right-hand side that sentence corresponds to. All right, so it looks like this. Left side, your sentences A, B, C, D, all the way through I. Right side, the section titles that we're talking about. Take a few minutes, again, push pause, and you can just draw lines between the sentence and the corresponding section if you want to, and see what you can come up with here. Which proposal section does each sentence reflect? And then we'll come back and I'll give you my answers, and we'll see what we can learn from this exercise. All right, let's take this one sentence at a time, and you can follow along quickly. I'm not going to go deep into anything here. I'm just going to show you the correspondences. And you see if you agree with me. There is some room for interpretation here, but here's how this goes. Sentence A matches up with the issue statement, the statement of need, issue, or opportunity. Right? Sentence B also matches up with the issue statement. Sentence C does a lot of different things. It addresses the issue statement. It brings some new information in for the issue statement. It also gets into the methods or work plan, and it also brings some budget information in as well. When we move on to sentence D, focuses on the work plan methods, and it also includes partnership in that. In E, we're exclusively looking at the work plan or methods, how we're going to get from here to there. Sentence F also focuses on the work plan or methods, more information about the steps we're going to take to move us from where we are to say we want to be. How are you doing so far? How about G? G is also methods or work plan. Quite a lot here about how we're going to do the work. Let's take a look at H. In H, we're clear about our intended outcomes. We come back to talk about the change that we want to see, and we also share how we plan on evaluating that change. So we've got a 2 for intended outcomes and evaluation. And our last sentence, sentence I, about the work plan. It brings some additional information about the work plan, and it focuses on the budget piece. All right, how'd you do? So here's what it all looks like when I add all of those red lines up. It's less important that we, match up exactly line for line, because what I really want you to see is how important it is that we have something in our summary that reflects each and every section of the full proposal. And if you start matching up the sentences, you can see on the left-hand side, there's a line that runs from every single sentence to at least one proposal section. But what happens when you look first at the right-hand side and see if there's at least one sentence that matches up with each and every section? And what you notice is, right up at the top, we don't have anything in our summary that references what we call applicant credibility, or later in this session, we're going to call it credibility statement. All right, so there's a gap here. We've just revealed a gap in our summary. There's key information in our proposal that we haven't included yet in our summary. Easy way to do that, and here it is. Do you like my little old-fashioned picture of the girl with her hair in rag curlers? What is she doing? She's gone to the pump, and she's pumping water from what? From the well, the deep down in the ground well that we have already dug. We have already dug the well, and when we're putting our summary together, all we have to do is go to the well that we've already dug and pull from it the precise language that we need to plug in to create our summary statement. So we've dug 2 wells, actually, one great big one. That's our master proposal blueprint that we can literally go in and pull 1 sentence out from each section. If we've done our work right, there'll be 1 sentence in each section that really gets to the heart of what that section is about. We can pull that sentence out and plop it down in order to create our full summary. Now, some of this also might be on our Magic Wand 1-page worksheet. Remember, because we've been very concise and very clear there, and by the time we've done all our work and strained everything back onto that worksheet in final form, there may be just exactly the language we need there to pull together a summary that addresses each and every section of the full proposal. All right, so you can try this on your own. There's a fill in the blanks on page 148 in your workbook. And what I'd love for you to do is go back to the summary or the overview statement from the Literacy Volunteers example and see if, rather than looking at the examples we just cross-mapped with the proposal sections, that's one way of doing it. What I'd like you to try doing is go back to the original proposal and see if you can find 1 sentence in each section that you could pop forward into what's going to ultimately be the summary. Right? And you want to start with the summary of the summary. How do you like that? I want the opening sentence to be a summary of the whole proposal as well as the summary section itself. And there's a hint here for you. What if you go to the very first question at the very top of the Magic Wand worksheet for our Literacy Volunteers of Our County project? I think you'll find that your summary sentence is already put together for you right there. Right. So this is on your own. If you want to do the work right now, go ahead and pause. It will probably take you a little while, or come back to it again after we've wrapped up with our work here today. I want to share with you some sample summaries from the Magic Wand. Now, all the way through, the one Magic Wand we've been looking at has been our Literacy Volunteers of Our County Tutor Training Program. But I want to share with you some additional samples of what the Magic Wand summary question can look like. And I'm going to do this with real life before and after examples. Okay, that means that in a workshop that I was running a while back, a few years ago, we were actually working with the way that people answered the questions on the Magic Wand worksheet. So we talked about the Magic Wand on day 1. They came back a week later having done some of the work themselves, and then we as a group took a look at the work that they had done and workshopped it. What does workshop mean? That simply means that we pulled it all apart. We talked about what worked and what didn't work. We reorganized everything until we came up with an after example that we thought passed that 30-second elevator test, a really muscled up version. And what you'll see on page 149 are the before examples, what people came into class with, and the after examples, what their summary looked like when we were done working with it. So I want to walk you through 2 and then give you the opportunity to work on the other 2 in the same way. Here's an example of and I chose each of these 4 because each of them illustrates a very common mistake or misdirection that people can make when they're putting their summary statement together. And I wanted to give you an opportunity to see, here's what the mistake looks like. And you can experience it from the standpoint of Mr. or Ms. Gates. And then I want to see what happens when we run this through our fill-in-the-blanks model that I shared with you pretty quickly when we first took a look at the Magic Wand worksheet. Okay, so here's the before example. This is what somebody brought in with them. Okay, I'm going to read this out loud to you. A reading garden. Keep in mind, this is all you're going to know about this project. A reading garden that will include a working aquaculture pond, a windmill to irrigate recirculated pond water, shaded ramada, fruiting vines and trees, and seating. The area will be used as an outdoor classroom and reading area for students. For the community, the garden will be a demonstration project for aquaculture, permaculture, alternative uses of water and wind resources. Take a moment or two, push pause if you'd like to reflect on this example and see what you can find that doesn't work, and see what you can find maybe that does work but that you want to be doing differently. What does not work about this for you? And then let's take a look back at our summary guidelines for crafting that first sentence in our one-page worksheet, all right? In one sentence, summarize your project idea. That's what we're looking at. What will you do? Where, with whom, when, and why is it important? In order to what? So that's the strainer that we've been using. Here's our Literacy Volunteers example. By March 2000X, you'll remember this one, Literacy Volunteers of our county, Washington. So we've got the when, we've got the who. We'll train 50 new reading tutors, that's our what, to serve the Western rural communities, that's the where. Here's the working with whom, working with the volunteers recruited from local churches. And then finally, the in order to what? Why is this important? Why are we doing this? In order to reduce the waiting list for literacy training in this underserved area. All right, so this is familiar language. We've been working with this language all the way through as we've been building from this every single section of our working example of the Master Proposal Blueprint. All right, but let's take that exact same framework, that strain, as I said, and see what happens when we use it on the reading garden example. Now, you don't have all the context. All you have to work with is what's in that before example. We had the whole context, so we could bring in additional information as needed, and you're going to see the results of that here. So let's go back and do a fill in the blanks. Let's start with the when. Here's what it looks like by March 2016. So there's a clear time container. Somebody is going to do something, and that somebody is Ecotech Academy, a tuition-free nonprofit charter school. Did you notice that in the before example, the name of the organization that was going to be requesting the grant didn't even come in? All right, so here we have the who and a little bit about what we do and who we are, credibility statement, right? And now the what. We will construct a reading garden. Now, we've pulled that term reading garden out. We decided that reading garden was a great, clear, very user-friendly way to describe, the end result that we were after with all of these other elements that were included in the before example. And we decided we didn't need all of that information in our summary. What's one phrase that will encapsulate and summarize the end result that we're after with all these elements? And we chose reading garden, okay? At its Peoria, Illinois campus. Oh, now we get to see where this is actually going to take place. The summary neglected to mention that. All right, so that's the where. With whom? Wow, look at this. We're working with volunteer master gardeners, aquaculture farmers, and the University Environmental Resource Center. In order to what? Now, the original had a sense of the in order to what, but it was more in order to provide a place. Let's take a look at what happens when we're looking more at in order to create a change or an opportunity. And here's what this came out to be. And we weren't making anything up. We were just simply asking deeper questions of the person who brought this example to class. What's it really like? What are you really after here? And what we're doing here, we're doing all of this to create an outdoor environmental classroom that gives inner city youngsters aged 5 through 12 a chance to connect with nature. What do you think about that? Wow. See how clear that becomes at every single level, and see how powerful it is when we drop just a few words that answer these key questions into the right place in this fill in the blanks formula. I love this example. It's really beautiful. Let's take another one. This is court-ordered mediation. And I love this one equally for an entirely different reason. You'll see that this one presents challenges that are different from the first one. The first one was challenged by a lot of detail that we didn't see how that detail was actually coming together to create something important in the community, or even where that community was. Our court-ordered mediation example takes us in a different direction. See what you think about this one. The probate court in our county is creating a court-ordered co-mediator program for litigants to resolve conflicts involving the care and property of minors, incapacitated persons, and decedents' estates, and to assess mediators' fees based upon parties' ability to pay. Are there any words that come to mind as you read through this one? Read it through again to yourself if you'd like to. I think you can see some real problems here. In addition to not having some of the key questions answered, the other thing that happens here is there's tons of bureaucratic language that maybe means something to the people inside, and we can unpack it if we work really hard, because we're intelligent, well-educated people. So it's not like we don't know what these words mean, but we might really not know what these words mean. And I surely can't unpack it all in 30 seconds. And it doesn't give me a sense of real life, living, breathing people struggling with challenges and how this process is going to help them. So we strained it through that same fill-in-the-blanks formula, and here is what we came up with. See what you think about this one. It's a little bit, the format's a little bit different. Okay. During 2000X, there's our time frame. Somebody's going to do something. The Our County, Arizona probate court, we want to make sure Arizona is in there, is going to launch a program of low-cost court-ordered mediation. Okay, that's the what. For county residents involved in probate disputes. So that's the with whom, but when we bring the word county residents in there, we're also describing the where. So it's really clear that this is just for people who live inside our county. Now, all the rest of this is what unpacks all of the activity that we saw in example 1 disappears. And instead, we bring out the why we want to do this. And let's take a look at this beautiful language. To help resolve complex guardianship and property issues while preserving family relationships and bypassing a time-consuming, frustrating, and costly legal process. So in this example, the process was so institution heavy that we had to wrap that all up in this one phrase, a program of low-cost court-ordered mediation and probate disputes. And we unpacked the why or the in order to very fully with this wonderful language that's also very, it's not simplistic language. It's very clear, however, how the work we're going to be doing is going to impact real live living people, preserving family relationships and bypassing a time-consuming, frustrating, and costly legal process. All right, so if you were the funder and you were in the elevator and this is what you heard going up and the other version is what you heard coming down, which of the two do you think you would want to write the check to? So there are 2 more real-life examples, and you can do this same process on your own. One has to do with an after-school service club, and the other one is a child care program for refugee women. And see what you can do. Just take the final example, look at the first example, the before, and then take a look at the after, and run the after through the fill-in-the-blanks model that we just shared. The time frame, the who, the what we're going to do, the where it's going to take place, the with whom, and finally the why in order to what. And see how well the after examples fit into that fill-in-the-blanks model. Because what I really want you to see is how much power there is to having a formula, to having a place to put the information that's clear and predictable and repeats again and again and again. And yet if you read the 4 after examples, you don't get a sense of cookie cutter anything because each one is its own powerful what am I trying to say? The information is so powerful and so clear and so unique, and it's so clearly presented inside the framework that we've been working with all along. Right? So that's all there is to putting your summary together. Go back to the well, pull from the well what you need to craft that clear, compelling summary that will pass the 30-second test when you happen to be in the elevator with somebody who can write a check on the spot. Okay, so come back for lesson 7B, and we're going to take our deep dive into the credibility statement, that question that answers for the funder, who are you? What are you all about? And how do we know we can trust you?